Okay, today is August 17th, 2022, so I got the date in there, Alan, just to let you know. Okay, this is the meeting of the Board of Directors, regular meeting, Trophy Club Municipal Utility District Number 1, and it is 6:30. I'll call the meeting to order. We do have a quorum. We're missing Director Hunter, who may join us in a little bit. First one is citizens' comments. This is an opportunity for citizens to address the board on any matter, whether or not it is posted on the agenda. The board is not permitted to take action on or discuss any comments made to the board at this time concerning an item not listed on the agenda. The board will hear comments on specific agenda items prior to the board addressing those items. You may speak up to 4 minutes or the time limit determined by the president or presiding officer. To speak during this item, you must complete the speaker's form that includes the topics of your statements. Citizens' comments should be limited to matters over which the board has authority. Do we have anybody to sign up? Anyone? Okay. You okay? Okay. Okay, we do have our legal counsel. He is dialing in from Zoom too, and he may be joining us in a little bit.
I'm here, ma'am. I'm here.
Okay, Tony is here. Thank you very much, Tony.
You're welcome.
Okay, reports and updates. 1, staff reports. A, capital improvement projects. B, water operations report. C, wastewater systems reports. And D, finance reports. And E, outstanding public drinking water system award. Staff?
Good evening, directors. A few updates tonight. The Waterline Interconnect project made good headway this month. We're approximately 95% complete. They began working on a tie-in that's a critical tie-in over off of Indian Creek on the east side of the townhomes. When they make that tie-in this next week, we'll be able to load the line, pressure test it, and then eventually make the connection over by the elevated storage tower. They have the line laid up to that as well. They do have a portion of line that goes in between the hotel, water line D, but there is potential where we're reevaluating whether or not we need to upgrade that line or not because it is PVC. So if we can remove that from the project, then we'll do so. But they've done a good job this month, and so we're getting closer to the end on that, at least getting substantially complete. Unfortunately, it is the end of summer, so we won't get to see a big impact on our system, but at least getting it in place and in operation will allow the staff the ability to start manipulating the system to prepare for next summer. Our FY22 waterline project is moving along well. Creek Courts is approximately 42% complete. Billshire is roughly 53% complete, and they're still anticipated to finish by the end of September on that project. Our SCADA project, so we received information today that the server was dropped off. It is built, they've been running it, tested, it's good to go. So the intent, if I'm not mistaken, is to connect with our IT personnel, and they're going to try to get that installed this Friday so we can start running both systems, new and old, together to see how that works and make sure that everything is proper. The Junction Way project, we had a pre-construction meeting. That project schedule began September 5th with an anticipated completion date of November 4th. Lift Station 1 has had no movement this month. There's been a lot of submittal review and ordering of parts and materials, but they're seeing significant delays. Everything down to minor 4-inch parts we're starting to see some delays on. So as of today, I think the generator may not be here until December or January, the last we saw. The lift station generators project, we did receive a 30% draft on that. We reviewed it, provided our comment back to our consultant. The next steps will be a 90% review, and then we'll advertise in September and look to approve for that contract in October. Our Encode project, updates on that are the financials and payroll. I have to give it to Stephen. He's had a lot of headache going on, especially being down a staff member. But he's been able to find time and get his training in place and work towards completing this project. So kudos to him on that. But the financials and payroll will be going live in October. So when you're reports come out in the November, it will look different. We're going to start using the new format that Encode produces, okay? Utility billing is currently scheduled to go live in November, so that will be reflected on the bills sent out in December. We're going to start working on getting the new forms in place, updating folks on the new platform, and begin notifying everyone in September and October prior to that. Okay? Other than that, that's pretty much it. I do want to say that as I notified you folks a few weeks ago, the district was fortunate enough to apply and receive the Outstanding Public Drinking Water System Award. Last week, Bert and Mike and myself went down to Austin. Unfortunately, they didn't have the awards there and present. It is what it is. So they were supposed to have been mailed this week. We have yet to receive those. But, you know, as mentioned before to you all in correspondence, this award does recognize our overall excellence in all aspects of operating a public water system. And to be recognized, a public water system must go above and beyond the minimum standards, excuse me, in protecting public health and ensuring reliable operations. Now, two major components of that are exceeding the capacity requirements for production, total storage, service pump capacity, and pressure maintenance, promoting year-round water conservation, and having no violations of primary drinking water standards, no enforcement actions, or unresolved violations. So it's twofold. Kudos and commendations should go out to current and previous boards for their planning and efforts and ability to provide funding for these things, but also a big round of applause for our staff that over the last however many years has maintained not only superior rating and quality, but they've also done so to provide us with outstanding. And I want to make sure that tonight I give Mike McMahon and I give Bert Cooper, if you'll raise your hand, sir, and Frank Isola. I would like y'all to make sure y'all know who those are. Bert Cooper is our water supervisor. Frank is our wastewater supervisor. Now, both of these gentlemen aren't specific to either side, just like Mike. They're both water and wastewater certified. They've worked on both sides of the fence. So both of them, along with all of their staff, have been influential over the past years, and I want to make sure I give credit to those gentlemen and all of their staff. Not just with this award, but I've been throwing a lot at them the last 2 years. This staff is meeting the bar, they're meeting the expectation. I can't refine them any further. That's just my personal opinion. If I could, I would, but I don't think I can. So I want to make sure that y'all know who these individuals are, because outside of Mike and myself, these are the next two lines of defense that are making sure that everything's taken care of for you all every day and night. So make sure y'all knew that. Other than that, I have no other comments.
Bert and Frank, please pass the word down to you troops. Thank you very much for your work, especially in the extreme heat conditions that we've had this past summer. We really appreciate it. Do we have any questions on finance, Bill?
I have a couple of comments about the outstanding award. This award is no small thing. But tall cotton, it's like when finance pulled in the GFOA award. Everybody doesn't get that. MUDs, little MUDs, don't ordinarily see that. This outstanding water quality award is pretty rare. I think there have been about 53 awarded that are listed on the website. Of that 53, I think there's only one or two other MUDs that have ever received this award. When I talked with Mike a little bit earlier, we talked about the 53. We're talking about 53 out of 7,000 water service utilities in the state of Texas. This is above outstanding. And I think that another important thing to mention here is that in order to receive the award, all we had to do was to file for it, because everything was already in place. All of your work just needed to be recognized. And I'm proud of you, and I'm proud of what you've set up, and that you're finally getting the recognition for it. I think we deserve your round of applause. Thank you. And I hope that we get a public notice put out on outstanding, as well as the signage going up.
We have to get the signage made. Once we get that done, I figure we could do some sort of photo op and try to use that as a public outreach.
Fantastic. Thank you.
You don't have any financial questions? Okay.
Not at this-
got, one on the maintenance and repairs, Mike, and I think it's in the water, 21,000, and we're at like 160%,
What page are you on?
page 19.
Okay, let me get there. Okay,
I mean, it is what it is, but do you know what the higher expenses were?
What are you looking at?
The water, general fund expenses, and maintenance and repair,
For this month,
July.
July? I know we had a main break that up on Pebble Beach, it was on a 10-inch line, and that was pretty costly for us. Other than that,
I believe y'all
Is any of it
received some
related
parts
to-
too.
oh yeah, we did also finally receive some parts that we had on order for months and months.
Okay.
If I can chime in too, it's, part of this is the reimbursement that we haven't received yet for expenses earlier in the year. So when we did the budget amendment on here, we were projecting to get more back for some of the main breaks that was called by another contractor.
That's what I was gonna ask, is any related to,
Yes.
starts with an O and stuff? The deal on
Well, that's
cable?
actually a different one. There is some of that related in here, but a big portion of that, I want to say about 90,000, if I remember right, was due to another contractor that hit, that caused a chain reaction. And that we're still working on trying to vet that out and get party to pay.
And we feel pretty confident they're gonna reimburse us, is that right, Alan?
Well, they've been in communication so far. We have sent over some more data that they requested from us, so we're still they're still communicating with us, so we're still trying to work through them before we go in a different direction.
Okay, and then, let's see, have we steered clear of any additional line breakage by this same company?
We actually have.
Really?
So the one that eventually
Plus.
did this was 114 project. So the boring company around town has hit a few lines too, but the water department's doing a good job of keeping them in line, so.
Good. Pointing where the line is, okay, it's right here. Okay. Moving on, we're gonna go to, does anybody have anything else on that? Doug? Okay, we're good. Ben, you okay?
I'm good.
Okay. Moving on, consent agenda. All matters listed as consent agenda are considered to be routine by the Board of Directors and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be a separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Item number 2, consider an act to approve the consent agenda. A, July 2022 combined financials. B, July 18, 2022 regular meeting minutes. Have entertain a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda items 2A and B.
Okay, we have a motion by Director Rose to approve consent agendas A and B. Do I have a second?
Harper seconds.
Got Secretary Treasurer Harper, second. Any discussion? There is none. All in favor? Show of hands. Unanimous, and again, Director Hunter is absent. Okay, 3, regular session. Consider and an act to approve contract number 2022-081701 with Rod L. Abbott, CPA, PLLC, for annual financial audit services. Audit team, anyone have a motion? Okay, Director Rose.
This is a follow-up and completion of information from last meeting. I move to approve contract number 2022-081701 with Rod L. Abbott, CPA, PLLC, for our annual financial auditing services.
Okay, I have a motion by Director Rose. Do I have a second?
Harper seconds.
He's beating you, Ben. Jumping on. Okay, I have a second by Secretary Treasurer Harper. Any discussion? I see none. All in favor? Unanimous. Okay. agenda item number 4, discussion and possible action regarding release of existing utility easements located at 1600 Solana Boulevard. I guess this would be staff, Alan?
Yes, sir. If you all will, let me find what page.
It's,
Page 41.
Yes, but if you'll go specifically to page 59,
Huh?
I'd appreciate that. Everyone there? On page 59 and page 56, you will see that at 1600 Solana Boulevard, there are some areas highlighted in yellow. What those areas are being highlighted are existing utility easements that were previously dedicated, and I didn't look specifically at what year, but I believe they date back to the 70s. So the current property owner has requested to abandon these easements because they are looking to sell their property, and they would like to remove these from the current platting, so that way they can sell it and provide for better redevelopment. Staff has gone through to make sure that there are no existing utilities within these areas. We've had the consultant and the property owner's engineer verify, survey that there's nothing conflicting about it, and we see no reason why we would need to retain these currently as the way it sits. So we see no reason why we shouldn't allow this, and also Tony has reviewed, and Ryan Martin with Core Logic is here tonight in the event that you all have any questions or need specific details about this request.
Ryan, would you like to say anything? Or
I'd just say a few things. Step up to the podium. Ryan Martin, CoreLogic, successor in interest to Texas Holdco, is title on the land. We are, as stated, attempting to sell. We've got a couple of potentials. Nothing firm yet, but most have indicated the desire to remove those easements in order to develop. Most of the uses, just for information's sake, are conforming with the use of the property, so we have our fingers crossed. But that's what we're here for. Ready to answer any questions if you have any.
thank you for attending, number 1. Does anyone have any questions?
no, my only question, the staff has taken a look at that. It's not a necessary thoroughfare or something else that we would need an easement sometime in
No,
future.
these are
through there.
specifically utility easements.
Okay,
I think why they had these easements out here anyhow is because when they put the six-pack in and all of this stuff, they were looking at future development that never came to fruition.
okay.
Goes back to the early 80s with the IBM contract. Mr. Harper, do you have any questions?
I'm just, what value is it to us if we say no?
Nothing. Yeah, we aren't using it.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Okay, and the staff recommends that we approve this release of the existing easements. I see no further questions, okay. I'll entertain a motion.
Let me tackle it. I move to approve the release of the existing utility easements located at 1600 Solana Boulevard as presented in the package.
Tony, that should cover it, right?
Yeah, in your packet is a form of a partial release of easement rights that I prepared, and it releases the easement rights as it relates to the property described in the exhibit, but the easements extend to other lands, and so we structured it as a partial release, so the easements will remain in effect as to all other lands than those described in the exhibit. So if the motion approves the partial release of easement rights as set forth in the board packet, I think that gets you there.
You want to,
I'll restate the motion to say to approve the partial release of easement rights as shown in the packet located at 1600 Solana Boulevard.
thank you very much for the minute, okay. Do I have a second?
Harper seconds.
Okay,
Big man.
Vice President Brewster has seconded the motion to release of partial easements located at 1600 Solana Boulevard. Any further discussion? See none, all in favor? Unanimous again. Director Hunter is absent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for attending. Just a suggestion for future, and I don't know if we have the capability, when we have overview sketches or anything like that? Is there any way we could bring it up on the screen so people can see that? That'd be very helpful. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Agenda 5, presentation from Tradition Energy regarding current electric rates and purchase options for fiscal year 2023. How you doing? Could you state your name?
You have this great presentation, everything in your packet, and Mr. Ferment said keep it to 10 minutes, so I'm going to just
Yeah, could you just state your name, please?
Oh, I'm
Thank
sorry.
you.
I'm Bob Shiring. I'm Vice President with Tradition Energy. Sorry
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to keep this to 10 minutes, okay?
Thanks for coming, Bert and Frank.
Let's see if we can, I'm just going to pick out a couple slides. I want to preface this by saying that Stephen and I have been looking at this for months, but we wanted to hold off till the new board came in so we could start really, obviously all that work, and you guys are going to have to, or I should say your board, we're going to have to approve it. So with that, now we have the new board in place. And let me make sure if I can get this to, there we go. I'm just going to go, because I think I've worked with Mr. Rose before, because I was looking at, you look familiar, and I think you were involved in the last contract. But I just want to give you a little quick background of who we are, and if you want some more information, look at your pack, and I'm happy to answer any questions. But we're the nation's largest independent energy risk management and sustainability solutions advisor. We've been advising clients since '86. We focus on competitive analysis, our energy market research. Our parent company, we're based in Stamford, Connecticut, and working all over the United States. Our parent, we're actually publicly traded on the Swiss Stock Exchange. Our international headquarters are in Paris, France. We have been we create a very competitive environment to get our clients the lowest price solutions. And we actually do surveys, and 97% of our clients say that our strategic recommendations make a positive contribution to their enterprise. These are just some examples of some of the clients we work with. I was actually telling Mr. Rose I have a client, a MUD actually in Houston, that met today to discuss this exact same thing. And so I'm going to go on to the next one then. That was quick, I told you. Now we're starting getting into the meat of the matter a little bit. Okay, what's going on? Why is this skip? I don't want a free trial. Do you want a free trial?
Get that too.
Did I pick the wrong? Okay, this is some great energy market research put together by our research group. And I'm not going to go into all this because we want to keep this pretty short so we can talk about some of the meat of this. But one slide I do want to focus on is this one right here. This slide, and I don't know, I know you can see that. I know you can see that up there. But this slide right here shows what wholesale electricity prices are doing and reacting in the North Texas market. Okay, and I want to point out something. I don't know if you can maybe look over here, you will see this graph right here. These lines show 2023, 2024, and 2025. Electricity, like natural gas, crude oil, is traded on the forward markets, and each one of these dots and each one of these lines represent the cost at the wholesale level of electricity for an entire year. Each one of these dots. Just looking at the picture, you can see, I don't know, maybe I can, yeah, I don't, can you see the cursor? Okay. I don't need to, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out what's gone here. It is just skyrocketed, and we had some really cheap power for quite a long time. Some of the reasons that this has gone away, that this has gotten much more expensive, I could go into a lot of it because I love the research, but I don't think I need to tell you that coal plants are just getting decommissioned left and right all over the United States. In fact, Vistra, which is one of the biggest electricity suppliers in Texas, about 5 years ago, shut off 5% of the coal plants of the grid, took out 5% of the generating capacity. That is all being replaced with renewables. We don't have another natural gas plant coming online here for another 2 years, and it's not a big one. Everything is solar and everything is wind. Sun doesn't shine, the wind doesn't blow, you don't get that power. That's more risk, more risk is price. The other reason is natural gas prices. Natural gas is the marginal generating source for electricity in Texas. Natural gas, when we signed this last contract, was $2.50 to $3. As of yesterday, when I came, $9 for September gas. It's just, and I put a spreadsheet together for calendar 23 and 24. It's just, the days of cheap energy are gone. Now, so I don't know if there's any questions about that, but I'm going to go to the pricing report that we put together. Any questions on that as a matter of background, which maybe you could bring up during when we talk about this? Mr. Harper, you look like you're ready to say something.
Well, how much of the cost increase is political?
Here we go. This is what I was. Okay, this is a mixed story here. Why does that keep coming up? Where is that? Skip for now. Maybe I'm hitting something. Close that. Okay, so let's start with this. This is the pricing report, and we've run a few iterations for Steam before this, and the story's pretty much the same. But here's the customer information here, basic customer information. Your utilities Encore. In Houston, it's CenterPoint. Out West Texas, it's Encore and AP. You're in the north zone. You have 19 accounts. Those 19 accounts are each listed here. Each, in this column right here, is the annual consumption of each account. You can see that your sewer plant is obviously the biggest one. There's your pump stations, et cetera. Here's a histogram of the pattern. Not surprised. You're kind of, it's almost like a commercial real estate load. We're using much more electricity in summer because you're pumping more, right? Doesn't make, and then here's the breakdown as summary month by month. So those are your ESIs. They're called ESIs or meters. Your current supplier is Hudson. This is your annual volume of KWH, 4.46 million recall. Here's your current rate at 3.79 cents. We hit a home run. We all hit a home run when we did this. I've been doing this 15 years. I just rarely saw things below 4 cents per kilowatt hour for the energy, because your bill is, you only have the bill is three portions: the energy, which is deregulated, the distribution transmission, which is regulated by Encore, and any taxes or fees, but you're tax exempt. You only have a PUC fee, 1/6 of 1%. So this is your Encore charges on a weighted average cost of all those meters. This is your rate. Here's your bundled rate, exclusive of fees and taxes, but as I said, you're not. So there's your annual budget currently, okay? So now this is the pricing report we run, okay? This is on the left vertical axis are 9, please pull this out, are 9 vetted suppliers. Hudson, the incumbent, is about halfway down. Across the horizontal axis, top are the terms, 12, 24, 36, and 36, 48, and 60 months. Your current contract expires in December, so we wanted to get in front of this. The entities, the suppliers with the best rates are in yellow, and the red is the commodity portion, the energy portion. And you can see the TXU for 12, 24, and 36 had best rates, but then EDF had the best rates for 48 and 60 months. A couple comments here. One is EDF. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but EDF is French-based and one of the biggest electric generators in the world. We vet all these suppliers every year. We look at their financials. We look at their experience on the wholesale market, their billing history, customer PUC complaints. And before we even show them, because we're the biggest in our space, these suppliers all have to be vetted. The other thing I want to point out, very important, we're in a price-shaped curve, what's called backwardation. Backwardation is where, if you notice, as you go longer term, the prices get cheaper. 12-month term is, if I'm reading this, like 8.771 cents, and you can see that the 5-year term is about a third less than that. Contango is the opposite, where it gets more expensive. The reason it's getting cheaper in the longer term is the market believes we're in a very short-term squeeze and that this will eventually work itself out. Now, So the good news and the bad news is the mud has enjoyed a really low rate for 5 years. I mean, below market for probably at least 4 of those 5 years. Now reality setting. So these, if you look at this across, we'll just take the 5-year, it's the lowest rate. It says savings over current rate. The budget is going to go up. This is cumulative, so the budget's going to go up 5 divided by 666,000 for the cheapest rate. So on an annual basis, because these are fixed prices, like your current agreement that won't change. So if you take, we'll round it off to 66,900. So you're looking looking at about $133,390 a year increase for electricity. Now, something I've been working with your account for 14 years. But I pulled out one of the early contracts we did. And as much of a shocker as this is, back for the contract you had for 35 months, begin January of 2009, the rate was higher, 7.7 cents. So I bring that to your attention because we hate to see prices go up, but we're just really getting back to the norm. I mean, and prices actually before that were 12 and 14 cents for energy. So the mud has seen this kind of before. Unfortunately, we're going up and we're not going down. A couple of comments. With regard to EDF, you have complete operating flexibility. You can use as much or as little as you want. So if, like this summer's been hot, I know, talking with Stephen, you had to pump more. They're not going to, if you use more than what's on this, because that energy usage that's on here is actually based on your actual 12-month history. That's actually what you use. If you need to use more of that or less, your rate doesn't change. It's fixed, just to let you know. That's what's called, if you look below there, under a swing, 100% swing. That's what that means right there. These prices change every day. In fact, sometimes they change intraday, just to let you know. So I'm going to say this and then you're welcome to ask any question at any time. The question really becomes now going forward is with the contract expiring in December and this being forward trade, how do we time this? Well, no one's got a crystal ball, but based on research and that we do, what the risk right now is the winter risk. We will start seeing winter forecasts because this gets affected by the entire country. This is, natural gas, again, sets the cost of electricity. And if we get we'll start seeing winter forecasts for December, January, February, and November. But one of the forecasts for our private, the private weather forecasting service, if right now we can see out as far as October. Next month, we will start seeing November. I mean, this is a little bit of roll of the dice, but if we see beginning next month in September, the November forecast warmer than normal, we might get a little break on prices. That being said, the 5 year is not going to move nearly as much as the 1 year. Think about a rope that you snap. It just, the drivers aren't, a colder weather winter forecast for 22, 23 is not going to affect the way that traders in the market sees 27, 28. So that's a little bit issue. I would also encourage you to just always take the cheapest price. If we do this in a week or two, in the 48 months cheapest, take that. And the reason is this. In this price-shaped curve, where the 12 is more expensive than the 24, the 36, 48, and 60, if you do something shorter term, paying a premium, you're banking on when you do the renewal, we'll say the 3 year, paying a premium, you're banking on doing that renewal, that 5 year price is going to be less than that spread you're paying as a premium. The other thing, I have to add, and this is for you to think about, that's a speculative move if you're not taking the cheapest price. And does the mud board want to take, speculate on energy and not take the cheapest price available? That's, thinking that it's going to get lower, for example, or something. But remember, if you did a 3-year rate, for example, and you're paying a premium, when you renew 3-year, that difference between 3 and 5-year, for that to be the right procurement decision, you got to get the 5-year minus that spread just to break even. I can tell you, they did it in Houston at the mud board today. I say everybody they're all taking the cheapest rate. They don't want to speculate. I don't know if that made sense, but I opened it up, any question?
I have one question. This is a contract. I execute a contract for 5 years, 60 months. 3 years out, can I renegotiate that contract with that company if the rates are lower?
No, but you can't, but there's a product called a blend and extend. Let's just say you did the 5-year deal. That's a really good question, Mr. Rose. And 3 years into it, prices just plummeted for whatever reason, a black swan event. We just don't know. What you can do, for instance, if you have 2 years left on that contract, and we're seeing from that 3 years down the line, a 5-year rate precipitously lower, you can blend that in and make a new contract at that time for 5 years, blending that lower forward rate into the rate on the contract. It's called a blend and extend product. So that's a very good question.
Okay.
That being said, it would shock me. It would really shock me with the advent of everything going to renewables and the risk associated with that, and the energy market the way it is with the LNG. I don't know. I talked about $9 per MMBTU. You have all heard about the Ukraine war. Well, there's two trading hubs in the world that are like Henry Hub here in Louisiana that all these are priced off of. One's in Netherlands called TTF. One's JKM in Korea. Those are trading for all of 23 at $55, five times higher than we're paying. They are building more LNG plants in the U.S. They're buying it because they can capitalize on that spread. So, and there's in 2 years a whole bunch more capacity is coming on. So you're kind of fighting it. You're kind of fighting it if you're going to play that game. And as we were talking, I've been in the oil patch for 40 years, and when I saw prices at $90 to $100, $20 a barrel, I had seen traditionally tons of capital come in, private equity and everything. It's not coming in. It's not coming in. The policy of the government, and quite frankly, I don't care what administration is towards renewables. Hydrocarbons are becoming the Antichrist. I was telling them it costs $100 million for BP to drill a deep water well, and they're not going to see a molecule for 5 years. Are you going to take that risk? So, however this comes out, this is not what you want to see. This is, it's commodity price go down, but when we get to execute and that's the decision. What we may discuss is just take the cheapest price. And then if some black swan event hits, we get lucky, we can do the blend and extend.
If the district decides to proceed with a 5-year locked rate.
Pardon me?
If the district decides to proceed with a 5-year locked rate, that won't take effect until January 1, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, correct. That is a very good point.
So your recommendation is to go ahead and lock in rates now and not take any potential risk over the next few months?
This is what we have right now, and it's a very good question, is winter risk. And do we want to see what the winter forecast is going to come out and roll the dice, or do we want to take that risk off the table and do it right now? Winter, I could tell you, if we get these forecasts start coming out and it's a cold winter, it's going to get ugly. It's going to get ugly. So it's probably better to take some chips off the table.
And what you're recommending is the EDF rate, right?
Pardon me, I need one to get, you know, those
What you're
hearing aids that are
recommending is
coming
the
out?
E-
I need one of those.
Yeah, what you're recommending is the EDF?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
And like I said, they give you complete operating flexibility, financially extremely strong company. They've approved your credit, obviously. And they've got the lowest rate. Now, this is from, again, we've seen extremely volatile market. This, just to give you a perspective how volatile this is, the volatility in the electricity market makes the S&P look like a flat line. It is just, it's crazy. I mean, think about it. We regularly lately, 5% moves in these. Let's call Dow 30,000, okay? That's 1,500 points. We'd be talking about that right now. So, you know, what we need to do, and my recommendation to the board, is that you approve the 5-year term, let us freshen up the prices, and if they come in pretty close to this, we sign it.
Well, thanks for all the information. What I see is, based on your chart, I don't know if you can go back to the chart, it's not going down,
Okay.
it's going upward. And I agree with you 100%. If we wait till the winter time, that number's probably gonna be close to the
Let me,
8 or 9 or maybe 10.
let's see here, hold on, let me get to that chart, that,
The second one there, yeah.
if I can get this up. Is it up? There it is.
What I see, I was looking at the 60-month,
Right, versus,
EDF 60-month.
Why didn't
Looks
that go
like an increase, well, not an increase. It looks like, what, about $111,000 more a year?
Again, if we refresh this, in the 48 came out the cheapest, that's when I'd recommend you take. Take the cheapest on the board. I can tell you that's not gonna happen. I mean, I haven't seen, it's not gonna happen, but take the cheapest prices on the board. It comes out. Probably gonna, again, be the 60.
Well, that's what it is now. So that takes our estimated annual cost from 292, 640 to right at 400,000.
what numbers did you use in that?
So I actually predicted energy to go up a little bit over the next year, thinking we have another dry year. Excuse me. So I'm actually doing a little bit north of 500,000. So
So
we
your
have enough in the
budget is
budget.
higher than the numbers we're looking at.
that's correct.
Okay.
I also wanted to predict, just in case we did a shorter term, we had that flexibility inside the budget.
Wasn't it 70 or 71%?
75% is what we're looking at.
We budgeted 75% increase.
Alan and Stephen, what's your take on this?
I would recommend sticking with the 5-month, and if you wanted to go ahead and.
5 year?
5-year, yes, sir.
That's what I'm going, oh,
By the way, that's your current agreement, it's 5 years.
yeah.
And I do want to say, back in about 5 years ago, or I guess 4 years ago now, we had the same situation where we had this discussion. We actually got out of our last contract a year early and locked in the rate that we currently have now. So there is that possibility to do, as Mr. Shiring talked about, is to get out maybe in year 4 if the rates do change, if we see that kind of impact.
Yeah, one of the points, and the reason I brought the old contract is we're still under what you guys paid 6 years ago or so.
So,
We paid, agree to, was the last 5-year
Back
agreement?
then, it was, 7.7 cents.
Can we not pay that now?
We're at
No,
3.
I'm kidding.
You're at 3, you're half of that.
Okay. Any other questions?
I do have one.
Okay.
Uh,
Promise? Only one?
rubbing pennies together, looking for change, typical pilot maneuver. Rubbing pennies together, looking for change, a typical pilot maneuver. We talk about a contract and say, all right, we want to go ahead with the 60-month. That rate, we go in and lock it in at tomorrow, day after tomorrow, whatever it is. We continue with our current contract until the 1st of January, right?
Right.
Okay, so, all right, so I saved a couple pennies.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, you all have already set a policy to where you allow the general manager to execute these documents without having to bring them back to the board. So if you give us direction to go with the lowest rate or a 5-month rate, we can do so, or if you want us to lock it.
5 year.
Right, 5-year, I'm sorry, I apologize. 5-year rate, we can either go ahead and lock it at that time, or if y'all want us to bring it back, we can bring it back with that contract if you so desire.
Yeah, we can roll the dice and I can, in a month from now, I could run this tomorrow if you want, or a week from now, or whatever.
But if I'm not mistaken with some of you and Stephen's conversations, this has actually gone down just a little bit. If I'm not mistaken, some of the first numbers you sent over were 0.75 cents, 0.075 cents, if I'm not mistaken, earlier in the year.
Yeah,
So I
well,
believe
I'm
it's
sorry,
gone down some.
What was the question?
If I'm not mistaken, since earlier in the year, the rates have actually gone down a little bit since you first started running them for us.
I didn't.
On the short term, it did.
Yeah.
Is there, okay. Well, you know what? That would support this, well, I can do it on here. That would support this right here.
There is one caution I do want to say when we do a rate, instead of just going with the cheapest rate, the swing, as Mr. Shine was talking about, is important for us. That swing, if you look at TXU, only has a swing of 25%.
Yeah.
We are potentially putting ourselves in a position that could cost us more money at the end of in an annual year. What that swing does is, you know, every month we're going to go above and below depending on how the consumption was for that month. If we go too much above or too low, then we actually get penalized and have to get the full price for it for the year. Correct.
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
The 25% swing is basically a 75% take or pay.
You have to stay within your numbers. If you go below
okay.
them or higher,
Okay,
you may
so
get penalized. But
let's
this
go-
one,
let's
Mr.
go-
Yeah, this one you said there's no penalty. It is
Right.
what it is.
With EDF, you could go to zero or double usage. With TXU, I didn't bring it up because they weren't the cheapest rate, lowest rate, but if you go below 75% usage, let's just say, I don't, for whatever reason, they're gonna charge you 75%.
It's similar to home electric. You go 500, 1,000, 2,000.
Yeah.
You get penalized for if you go outside your range or
And then,
below your range.
if you go, very good point, Mr. Carr, if you go over 125% of usage, you get charged current market rates, at real-time rates. And think about that. What would drive you to go 125% of usage without adding some new meters or, well, some low? That would be extremely hot, long summer. And if you're using 125% or over, somebody else is, and those real-time rates are going to be expensive.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just not a risk you don't want to take that risk.
Anything else? Bill, you got anything?
Trying to formulate a motion in my mind.
Okay. Ben, you have anything?
Don't.
Yes?
Like the cheapest rate.
Okay, for 5 years, not 5 months.
Yes, sir. 5 years.
Okay, I agree with that. I mean, you have to roll the dice, and you're risking the winter rates, you know, waiting to see if it drops down any lower. So I agree on that. Do you want to entertain a motion to give our manager the authority to execute?
I move to authorize the general manager to execute an agreement with EDF for a 60-month contract for electric services.
Do you mind just referencing the numbers that we have in this chart?
I would, but I don't want to I can't tie it to that because when he goes in and does them tomorrow, they may be different.
Is that true?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
The number, we're looking at the
numbers may
numbers.
change.
Right now,
That's what we'll do is this. If the board should proceed as you, not recommended, you motioned or whatever, okay? Then what we'll do is we'll run a refresh pricing report. I'll send it to you and both of you, or I'll send you, Steve, and take it to Al. If it's a material change, which I don't think it'll be because we just ran these numbers yesterday, then we should caucus. But you can't put, in this bullish environment, you can't put a ceiling on it because what'll happen is if you said, whatever that price was, I authorize for 5 years at that price, we run it and it's a smidgen over it,
Can't do
we're
it.
back to square one. So you want to have that operating flexibility, or that flexibility. And then that'll be a call by you guys, is it close enough? And that's gonna be subjective,
you
and
wanna
probably.
put a limit, maybe?
What I think I need, did I get a second on that?
Not yet.
Good. Because now that I've thought some more about it, I don't know whether I should really limit it to a specific supplier. So, I think I reformat my motion to authorize the general manager to execute an electrical contract for 60 months at the lowest term with 100% swing.
Lowest rate.
Lowest rate.
Yeah. And that
We
eliminates
can get that
TXU.
done. If somebody seconded, we can get that done.
Yeah. Do I have a second? I'll second. Got crickets up here.
All right, so we'll get this, we'll refresh, oh, I'm sorry.
Need a motion.
Okay, we're not
So
done
that's-
yet. Tony, do you agree with that motion?
Yeah, I think it's clear the authority delegated to the GM to enter into a contract for purchase that meet the parameters just established by the board.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, I see none. All in favor of the motion by Mr. Rose? Okay, unanimous. Thank you very much for
All
your
right,
time.
so just for procedural, we'll put it into our system, get refreshed, send it to you, and you can pass it on. Thank you all.
Thank you
Thank
very
you, Bob.
much.
Oh,
Okay,
somebody's
6,
taking-
consider an act regarding rate assumptions and projections for a fiscal year 2023 budget. Staff and Chris.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board. Chris Eckert with New Gen Strategies and Solutions. We'll see if we can get this working here. There we go. All right, I see some new faces this evening, so I do want to start with a spiel that some of you have heard, but some of you haven't. As we talk about water and sewer rates this evening, I want to remind you we are a business. We are a business activity of government. And for a business to be successful, we have to do 3 things. Number 1, revenues have to match or exceed expenses. Number 2, we have to reinvest in our business. We have pipes, we have plants, we have pumps. Those have to be replaced over time, so we need to make sure we're reinvesting in our business. Third thing we have to do is we have to plan for a rainy day. It will start raining again, hopefully, maybe as early as tonight. We'll see what happens. But when it starts raining, what happens? Our revenues fall, so we have to make sure we have sufficient working capital, sufficient cash reserves in the bank. So please keep those 3 things in mind tonight as we are talking about rates going into fiscal year 23. A little bit of my thunder was stolen by the prior presentation. Electricity, it's going up. We just talked about that number. You can see in the far right-hand column here, fiscal year 23, that's what's in your budget document that you're looking at tonight. But again, an over 70% increase in electricity cost year over year. Other inflationary pressures that the district is seeing on the wholesale side. We are seeing wholesale expense go up. You buy water from the city of Fort Worth, they go up pretty much every year, so you're seeing about 40% of your overall water budget is going up by 5%. That's what we're seeing from the city of Fort Worth. So again, inflationary pressures, just as they're hitting your household budget, they're also impacting the district's budget as well. We started talking last year about line replacement, fixed asset replacement, and so that has also been built into your budget this year as we look at that line replacement need going forward. You see the middle chart there on the screen, there is a proposal to offset some of that line replacement cost with reserves. Begin to use some of the reserves you have, bring those down slightly, not all the way. We have to maintain a certain reserve level. So there is a goal here, plan over time to pull some of those reserves down, use that for reinvestment. But you see at the bottom of the screen what that does over time, pulling those down until we no longer use reserves. We're basically using reserves to mitigate some of the rates. It's kind of like we're bringing down reserves, we're bringing rates up at the same time, trying to slide into a good position is effectively what you're going to see here tonight. I will note that this is based on a plan. In talking with staff, if there are additional monies that are brought in the future over and above the plan, if our reserve balances are increased, that gives you more money that you could put towards line replacement. That would help potentially mitigate some future increases. So it's important. The plan that you're going to see tonight, that's based on assumptions. We need to revisit this. We need to look at it annually. This plan will change so that it may actually end up being better than what we're anticipating as you look at the numbers tonight. So just keep that in mind going forward. So with that said, we look at this every year. We break out your budget into the water component, the wastewater component. Just as we talked about, I believe it was last March, wastewater is performing. Even with you pulling your wastewater rates back, pulling those wastewater rates down, it's still anticipated that wastewater at this time is in good shape and will continue to be in good shape. We will revisit wastewater again after we reset the winter average. So most likely I'll be back with you again next March, looking at what the winter averaging has done and what we need to do with wastewater rates. On the water side, that's where you see the red. What's driving the red? The red is the line replacement that we just talked about on the prior slide. So again, that's what we need to adjust rates to make up. And ultimately, what that looks like here on this slide, you can see what we're proposing going into next fiscal year. Your current water rates are upper left-hand corner there. The projected rates on the right-hand side, those are the projected water rates, what we're recommending you do going into next year. You'll see with that adjustment, it's more heavily weighted to the volumetric side, that variable side. The reason for that, the increase from Fort Worth, we've kept that all on the volumetric side. All of that stays on the volume side. The remaining increase on the volumetric side and on the minimum charge side, that's all associated with line replacement. So again, you also see the number of meters right now that you have by meter size. You do only have one outside district meter. We do have those rates there, but you can see that only does impact 1 meter. At the bottom, current wastewater rates, again, no change in those at this time. We'll revisit that again in March. So this is a new slide. I don't know that we've ever shown you a slide like this, but what we did, we went in and looked at a residential water bill, 5,000 gallons of water use. Historically, I think we've been running a little bit higher than that, but we've been seeing that average come down slightly. So we're using 5,000 gallons here as an average single-family residential water bill. Right now, that water bill is $38.99 under current rates. Under the rates that you just saw on the prior slide, we would propose to take that to $43.26 in fiscal year 23. That's a monthly increase of $4.27 for 4,000 gallons. But I wanted to show you how that breaks down. 60 cents of that bill increase is associated with Fort Worth. That is passing through that increase in wholesale water. That's minimum. If you did nothing else, you have to do that. You've got to pass through the increase in your cost of goods sold, because that's what the cost of water is from Fort Worth. That's cost of goods sold. The rest of the bill is associated with that line replacement. And you can see what this looks like, is projected to look like going forward out into the future. We have a little anomaly there in fiscal year 24. What is associated with that is a pump replacement next year that's programmed in next year. That's why you see it flip on us a little bit in 24, but then go back in 25, all associated with line replacement. So again, that's how that increase in the 5,000 gallon bill breaks down. We're estimating that we're going to need this level of increase from 23 through 26. It moderates then in 27 once we're fully funding that program. But again, that's a projection. That's based on assumptions. We'll revisit that. It's possible if revenue performance is better than anticipated, we could bring these increases down into the future. You see the same type of setup there for the commercial bill. That's 15,000 gallons and where those increments fall. So with that, what do we look like under these increases? You can see we break even on the water side. Wastewater is still slightly over recovering there. Revisit that in March. But this plan works as we go out into the future. But it does require a use of reserves to mitigate some of those increases as we go forward. But that's how we're able to break even. So with that, happy to walk back into any of these slides and answer any questions that you may have.
You mentioned that the difference between the commercial and the residential was based on volume?
Yes, sir. That's based on volume. So the residential bill, that's 5,000 gallons. Commercial, that's a 15,000 gallon comparison there.
What's the overall percentage, Mike? Do you know that, between residential usage and commercial?
I don't know how much our total difference
I mean, there's a total water revenue, and then there's commercial, from commercial and then residential.
I think we were somewhere around like 83-27.
I was going to say 80-20, but
Well, last year it was
Thinking it was
flip-flop.
right. It was flip-flop during COVID. I'm not sure where we're at right now.
Question.
Go ahead.
What kind of assurance do we have that Fort Worth isn't going to just jump the price?
You have no assurance. There is no assurance there.
When do we find out what the rate is?
These include the
Yeah.
current rate.
These include what we've
Budget.
got notification?
This is based on a best guess, based on history, what they've done historically. I can't tell you what they're going to do in the future. We don't get a formal forecast from them. They don't publish that. So again, this is based on history. They are seeing inflation just like you're seeing inflation. They have line replacement. They have pump replacement just as you have line replacement and pump replacement. So there's
But I think the question is, we get,
Current
no,
numbers.
we
Yes.
get rates from Fort Worth
Yes.
on,
Yes.
Correct.
We have the current rates plugged into the proposed budget.
That's correct.
Yes.
So the 23 rate is pretty much locked in at this
Okay,
point.
that
Going
was the-
forward,
Yeah,
I
that was the
can't give you
point.
any assurance.
that was the point, yeah.
Right.
And that's a 60 cent?
So where does that work out? You say 0.6. What's the percentage increase that we're looking
So
at
Fort
there?
Worth is going up 5%.
5%.
Is effectively what they're going up. So that's, 12 cents basically on your volumetric rate is Fort Worth.
Does it ever go down?
I have never seen it go down in my experience. Now, that being said, it's under a contract, and there's a formula in that contract, depending upon how those variables move, it's possible it could go down. I don't ever recall seeing it go down.
In the past, we used to use some of the reserves, it depended where our reserves were at, to buy down some of the Fort Worth increase. Obviously, we have a lot of improvements to do, so you'd rather have the reserves go that way rather than be in the hole,
Absolutely.
so.
Again, as I said, cost of goods sold, that's just
Well,
the
I mean,
basic
you have
concept.
to, water is the gold, as they say, but you have to look around at, the total economy. You go to buy, go to Walmart, where you used to spend maybe $100, now it's $150, $60 for the same product. So everything is going up, and $4.27 for the average user, that's 5,000. You have it, that's really not a lot compared to, look at gas. So that's how I look at things as a whole. Everything goes up, unfortunately, so. Anybody have anything? Bill?
I understand the need. I'm suffering from rate shock right now. I'll be okay, I'll be okay in a couple minutes.
We just had a talk on electricity, so you should be numb to it now.
Yeah, it's like I'm going, wait a minute, I have some rate stabilization reserves, but I don't think those are applicable, and I think we're using the other reserves to take care of some of the line replacement costs.
that's
and
what I
it's
just said.
I'm just sitting here going, yeah,
Yeah.
it's where, it's basically where it's at.
Now, I would
You have
like to
needs?
say this, when we worked through this with Chris, we used all of our reserves as a potential use moving forward. So those rate stabilization reserves you're talking about, he used as potentially being used in future years.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, you didn't use them this time, did you?
So we're proposing a use of $617,000 in reserves. So your beginning balance, all your reserve funds, a little over $3 million. So we proposed 617 there in 2023. You can see there's a bigger use of reserves in 24. Again, some of that's associated with that pump station. So that's why you're seeing some of the use of those reserves. But we still, even at the end of the forecast, we maintain over $1 million there, $1,160,000 there in reserves by 26. So there is a drawdown there.
So bottom line is there is offset using reserves. in this
Yes, we are using reserves. We are trying to offset. We are trying to mitigate. As I said, the reserves come down as the rates go up, trying to get as soft a landing as possible.
How does Fort Worth's rate increase compare to other parts of Texas?
So in terms of their wholesale increase to you, they're actually one of the lower increases this year. We have seen double-digit increases from wholesale providers across the state this year. Honestly, the rate increase I'm bringing to you tonight is one of the smaller rate increases I've brought before my clients this year.
It's not the smallest, though.
Not the smallest, not
We
the
wanna
smallest.
be the lowest, though. Okay. Any other questions for Chris? Staff? Bill?
No,
Ben?
no.
Okay. And let's see. Okay, we need to have a motion on this one, so we can use these numbers for budget.
Oh, okay, for a budget, you need a motion to use them for budgeting purposes?
Yeah, that's what the agenda item is. Consider an act regarding rate assumptions and projections for the fiscal year 2023 budget.
Judge would say, oh, yes, shadow. Christie would say, oh, shadow.
I think you can just give direction to staff to incorporate the rate assumptions into the budget that'll be presented to you next month. And you'll be taking final action next month with respect to that budget.
Perfect. You want to do that, Bill?
I move to accept the rate assumptions as presented for inclusion, for use in the budget for next month,
In the fiscal
in
year
the fiscal year
2023.
2023.
Thank you. Second?
Brewster seconds.
Mr. Brewster, Vice President, second the motion. Any further discussion? I see none. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you,
No,
and we'll see you again, what, March or
Thank
something?
you very much. Yes, it'll be March.
Okay.
We'll see you in March.
Thanks a lot.
Bring treats.
We'll do so, yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, nice seeing you again,
Thanks, Chris.
Okay, moving on. Number 7, consideration regarding fiscal year 2023 budget matters. A, receive update from Budget Committee, that's Mr. Brewster and Mr. Harper, and B, discussion regarding the draft fiscal year 2023 budget.
Unless either one of you have anything to add, we'll just go ahead and have Stephen roll into it.
Let's do that.
Okay.
All right.
You
This
got
is
the floor, my man.
my time to shine here, right? All right.
Short and sweet.
Short and sweet. You sure you don't want to do as long as the energy? I can go in some details
We
here.
don't need no song and dance, just short and sweet.
Okay, so short and sweet here. We are going to let's focus first on page 61. This would be the FY 2023 proposed budget. So we are going to start with our tax rate, and I want to explain the handout that was given to everybody, to all the directors here prior to the meeting. What?
Did you pass out the new one?
Yes.
All right, so on page 61, you're going to notice that we have a projected proposed tax rate of .09294. Yes.
Is there, again, I mean, is there any way that, I know when they go to the podium there, they're able to pull up their PowerPoints and stuff. Is there any way we could put this on the screen? Or would it take too much time? I don't know if there's a monitor.
I can't sign into that, though. You have the jump drive?
Yeah, I don't know if there's
Come
a laptop here. Lori, if it's gonna be a lot, don't worry about it. Sorry about that, I just think it'd be,
Good idea.
I mean, people listening in or something could see what we're talking about rather than have to go to the agenda.
Yeah.
He's got it for you.
I feel like we used to do that all the time, Kevin.
Yeah, I know. That's what, I don't know what happened.
Or either.
No one cared anymore, right?
That's what I was going to do.
Okay.
Nobody's watching?
Yeah.
Now I've got to stand up.
We just, I mean, when we're waiting for this, we just got done talking about the electric increase and stuff, and I'm looking at the fire budget and all that. The EMS obviously houses in the fire station, okay? Do we get reimbursed, or does that fall into a pool for the town to just pay in their budget?
For rent or usage of the building, no.
So why wouldn't the town be, contributing to the electric? I mean, they have to keep their ambulance cool.
Well, they are. So
Okay,
the
so-
built-in electrical costs for the building itself are built into the fire department budget, and then they extrapolate out the proportional share that's 50% for
I
us.
thought we did, no. Yeah, okay.
Correct.
I thought that was happening.
Okay, you got it.
All right.
Need an introduction or anything, Stephen, or?
My name is Stephen Krochek. I'm the finance manager here for Trophy Club Mud Number 1. My pleasure to be here and see everybody's
Great to
shining
see you
faces
again.
today.
You looking dapper.
A GFOA recipient.
The mud is, that's correct.
Yeah, that's a lot better than people can
There we
say.
go.
We have this full audience, standing room only.
All right, so what we have here on the screen is the FY 2023 proposed budget. Let me make sure everybody can hear me here. What we have is the top part is the comparison, the tax rate summary comparison from fiscal year 2022 to the projected or proposed 2023. So what we have here is actually, this is the new one. Okay. So what we have here on the screen is actually the handout that was given to all directors here prior to the meeting. There was a slight change in the fire budget. It was given to me as of last night that the fire budget did change based on the last numbers that were provided to me. So I had to go back and readjust our tax rate and our fire budget. So what we have here on the screen, if everybody would just follow along on the screen here with me, this will be the current numbers. So what we have here is the M&O rate for the district, and this is including both fire tax rate and the general fund tax rate here. As you see, majority of this portion, once again, is fire related. We have a very small portion that goes to non-departmental for the M&O side of the general fund. Our INS tax rate did decrease also. This is based on debt being paid off. So if you look at our overall tax rate, it is about 13.74% decrease from the year before. Now, as all the board members have seen in prior years, tax rates go down, but so property rates go the other way and as they increase. So we'll scroll down here to property valuation summary comparison for the 2 years, and we are looking at a 12.53% overall property increase based on a combination of both Denton County and Tarrant County. So we're going to move down to the general fund here. The general fund did not change from what's in the packet there. We are showing a $0 surplus deficit based on the current rates that were just proposed. Your agenda item before. And here I'll go into the tax page here.
So basically, long and short of it is the property valuation, at least in Denton, went up 12%, correct? And we're going 13.74% down in the taxes being
Correct.
assessed. So the people should see a minor decrease then.
Yeah, so the average homestead is what we do the property tax valuation off of. The average homestead will see a 3.35% decrease in the annual tax payments.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying
So that's about
that.
$17.37 annually.
And you can use that 17 towards $4 and something increase in water, right?
Almost 4 months worth of water rates, right?
Yeah, that's
There you go.
great.
Steve, go back just a little bit on the tax debt service fund.
Yes. Oh, you're
Total
talking about down here?
expense as 1,000,009.
Right there.
What is that expense?
So that is the payments
The bonds.
Payment for?
Bonds and.
for the bonds. This is for the GO bonds, the tax bonds.
Okay,
And then one next to it is going to be for just the revenue bonds.
okay.
They show a revenue because there is a collection of revenue rates and taxes for GO, and then they get moved over to the INS accounts for payments.
And then these bonds include the fire station and all that,
That is
right?
correct.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
now
the
this is-
treatment plant.
This is monies for the interest on the bonds and monies to pay the bonds back.
Correct, the principal and interest, correct. Yep.
Okay, anybody have any questions on this page so we can move on?
All right, so we're going to move down to the amended here tax rate assessment and PID assessment surcharge calculations. This is a slightly variance from what's in the packet due to the new numbers in the fire station or the fire expense. So if you go down here, you'll see basically a recalculation of the revenue needed for the fire. This would be the MUDS portion and then the PID portion of it. Once again, every year we calculate because the PID is not in the taxing jurisdiction of the MUD. Therefore, we have to provide what their allocation should be for a fee in lieu of a tax, since we do not physically tax anybody in the PID. So these are just the requirements, what is required for the PID, their surcharge, and their assessment rate for fire. Any questions on the tax part of that? Okay. We're going to go down here to the bottom. This tax rate requirement is 3.5%. As you probably familiar with, Senate Bill 2 that came out a few years ago now. Being a build-out district, we have to stay at the 3.5% cap for the average homestead. So what we have is what's now called the voter approval rate, which you'll see there in the blue. Then you'll see in the green, that is our overall tax rate for 2023. As you see, it is less than what the voter approved rate, which doesn't require a
Rollback.
correct. Well, they changed the rollback rate. It's voter approved right now.
Different term.
They like to change it on us every now and then just to keep us
Just to
going.
confuse people.
That's correct. Any
Significant
questions
less.
on how the rate's calculated?
No,
All right.
significant less.
So let's go to the fire department first. I want to address this, and then we can jump into the general fund and go over the fun stuff there for the district. So on the fire fund here, the only changes you're going to have from what's in the packet actually goes down to salaries. And as far as my understanding with my conversation with April yesterday, at first they originally budget open positions at a higher amount. And the town has changed this last week, changes to what the actual amounts are for the fire positions. So you will see roughly about a $50,000 decrease from what originally was calculated and provided in the packet. Yes, Ms. Rose.
I have a question.
Sure.
What rate of increases in these salaries?
So the way the town uses, they do a flat 5% across the board per position.
Okay, so this does not meet the current CPI of 9.1.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Chief, if you want to add anything in here, just jump in, okay?
You can join me here, you want to? All right, so we'll go through here and see if anybody has any questions on what is presented on the revenue side, either from the town, the MUD. See, there is a few decrease that would happen. Once again, this has to do with the assessment for the PID, what you see on this top line here. So that really just has to do with the allocation between property valuations. And then here, obviously, the tax rate. Since it did go down, we're looking at less of a revenue coming in for tax rate.
Do we do any fire inspections on the new construction that they're doing?
So there should be some fire inspections there. As far as my understanding, it decreased quite a bit over the years from what they had originally done. So right now, I'm not showing anything in there.
Yeah, but all the PD-30, they're putting buildings up there and opening new shops. Do we not inspect that or the revenue?
Majority of that's already been inspected.
Even that new structure they're building there?
That one probably hasn't been part of it yet.
And in those houses?
If they require fire suppression, they will.
And if you go back and look at 19 and 20, you can see where we did, 50,000, almost 60,000 on those, and then they drop from there. They're not projecting any significant revenue coming in.
Being built over 5,000 square feet, I think it is.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right, and then we can go through, and I know we talked about this briefly on the last meeting here, as far as the expenses, relatively flat across the board, going down on the town side, which is the district's portion of it. The main thing you're going to see different here on the fire side is the capital lease has been paid off. So the fire engine that we did have, the ladder truck that we had, is no longer having to make a payment for that. So you'll see a significant change in that. And then on the bottom here, you have the calculation on what the transfer would be from the.
However, if you'll pay attention to the GASB 34 line item, right above that, we're still including an annual reimbursement or saving of $81,420 for potential future replacement of a fire engine.
Which one, the pumper or?
Either one. Essentially, at this rate, there's going to be $1.2 million worth of reserve sitting there available at the time one of the engines needs to be replaced, whether it's ladder truck or pumper.
When are we getting the new one again, Chief? Sorry to call you out on it.
Good evening, President, Directors. Jason Wise, Fire Chief. So thank you for your question. Your question about when are we getting our new pumper?
Yes.
It is our final inspection on the new Spartan engine is in the end of September here, and we expect delivery in October.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Do we have one more question? I noticed that the last grant revenue we had was 2020. Are we aggressively watching for grant money
Yes, sir.
to offset the budget? And then the next question, a follow-up question, is on the old pumper, is money in this budget considering we're going to turn around and sell it, or is that part of the new pumper?
That was part of the new pumper.
Okay, that we turn it in?
Yes, sir. There was credit given back as
Perfect.
part of that agreement.
Perfect, okay,
Right.
thank you. Okay, and then on the grant, you were going to ask, until I interrupted you,
It's okay.
the grant, opportunities for grants,
Yes, sir. We're looking into it all the time, so anything to help out.
because we haven't done anything in like 2 years, so I was
Yes, sir.
just wondering.
We do have one grant out. It's the SAFER grant for additional 3 personnel. We're supposed to hear from that before the end of September, by September 30th this year.
Okay, so there might be money offsetting this then. But you said there is a grant, or?
We put in for a grant last year for 3 personnel, and we just have not heard yet.
Okay, so,
And there's notifications usually second week in September, and we haven't heard anything yet, so that's positive.
okay,
But to answer your question, Kevin, yes, there would be potential future grant monies offsetting
okay.
staffing.
Chief, I have a question about, when we send out a truck or an engine, how many men are on board? Is it 4 men on a truck or 3 men on a truck?
So our current staffing is 5 personnel on duty each day, and that's what we want. So that leaves 3 firefighters on the engine and 2 firefighters on the ambulance, and that's what goes out on a call.
I know in some cities, there's a level where you have to meet certain standards to get a preferred insurance rate.
Yeah, but we're the lowest rate right
I forget
now.
what they call that.
ISO.
rating.
ISO rating,
Yes, sir.
the lowest right now.
We're currently in ISO 1,
Okay,
and a lot of it is because of that minimum staffing of 5.
right.
That brings up a good point on this budget, fire budget. How many people you mentioned that you're going to find out about the grant at the end of September for 1 on each shift, I take it?
Yes, sir. That'd bring us
Okay.
to 6.
And then what's that going to do as far as benefits and stuff, as far as the budget?
This current budget includes a new firefighter.
On each shift?
I believe it's just 1, isn't it?
Just 1.
Yes.
Yes, sir. This budget does include that. The SAFER grant will take care of that.
I'm not going to get into it, but years ago, it was, okay, we need 3 on each shift. Then it went to 4. Then we're good with 5. Now it's like 6. Next year it might be 7 or 8. It's like, how many people do you need? Because obviously you have mutual aid, like in South Lake. There were fire trucks back, like, I don't know, halfway down T.W. King.
Yes,
And
sir.
they weren't doing, the people were there if needed, but they weren't doing anything. And I wouldn't have gone in there either with the chemicals. But still, when we have house fires here, we get mutual aid from Westlake, Roanoke, North Lake, Argyle sometimes, Flower Mound. So, it's like, I understand for safety precautions, you need X amount of people, but there's other people there too, and it's, what's the magic number to stay safe and be able to put out the fire? And it keeps going up, and we're only a small community,
Yes, sir.
so
Yes, sir.
that's my
as-
2 cents.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think I wore you out already, so I appreciate it.
No problem.
Okay. Okay, Stephen, you're back on, buddy. Lori, thanks for putting that up.
All right, and then the bottom section here is the town transfer, or the town contributions, or sorry, the MUD's contributions over to the town. So you do see an increase here I know that looks a little odd when the budget actually went down. The reason for that is the payment that the district would have provided last year is no longer provided this year, which means we have a higher portion that we have to transfer over. Any questions on the fire budget at all? Any more questions? All right, hearing none, we're going to move forward. All right, what we're doing, 1 second here, we're going to pull up the general fund on the screen so we can walk through that.
Get a magnifying glass. Is there a smaller font size than the one you used on this?
Sometimes it's good to have good eyes when we look at my PowerPoints and the presentations.
You go to legal size paper.
11 by 17.
I'm
You
so
can look at putting
happy.
some additional monitors right here. Big ones, you know, you can get real close.
Where's it at?
When do we get the insurance numbers?
We'll likely bring those back in November for discussion.
Got it. Thank you. Okay. So we're going to switch back into what's in the packet. So what I just went over was the amended for the fire and the taxes. We're going to go down here to what's in the general fund, and I'll see if I can make this a little bit bigger and put everything on the same screen. All right. Everybody see this? All right, so what we have here is a summary of the budget changes from fiscal year 2022 to 2023 for the general fund. What I want to do is kind of pinpoint on the main significant changes that are happened to the budget for both revenue and expenses. I'll go through this fairly quickly at a high level, and then if anybody has any detailed questions, I'll be glad to go over.
This is different than what's in our packet?
This is in your packet.
It is in the packet. What
It should be page
62.
2 on the budget part of it.
62?
Yes.
66.
I was at 66. I don't have, mine
got
looks
paid.
different than that.
Well, at the very beginning, he provided a summary of all of the majority changes. So that may be what you're looooking at.
I'm
It
looking
should
at
be
the
in there.
general fund.
Let me pull it up.
I don't have a, let me see, tax debt, capital outlays, no.
Steven, so that budget versus budget net and then the prior year change, that's the,
on 62, sorry.
16, okay,
62 is what page we're on right now.
all right. Thank you. Okay,
That helps.
so
sorry.
Steven, on that, on the header going across, you, as you said, you have the 2022, you have projected 20, or proposed 2023.
Right.
And then you have budget versus budget net is obviously the amount difference, and then the percent is the prior year change, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Is that okay? Can everybody read that? I know there's a lot here. I'm trying to make sure we can
Yeah,
read as
yeah,
much as we can here. Okay. So on the revenue side, there's a few key factors that made changes here. One is going to be property taxes. Naturally, as property tax goes down, revenue is going down. This is strictly because of the decrease in non-departmental, and we'll go over that in the expense side of it, but directly related to that. We'll move to PID surcharges. This is allocation based on the property valuation. The biggest one piece you're going to have here is the water. You see the increase in water, $677,000. That is due to the new rates that were just discussed a couple items ago. And then sewer, significantly about the same, is fairly flat. And then penalties, service charge disconnects, both of those are going down, and we've actually seen a decrease over the last couple of years. This is a good sign, good thing actually. It just means that we have more customers paying their bills, less bills are in default, less interest or penalties are being charged to it, and less disconnects are happening. This is a big impact on as far as what the utility billing staff has been doing. They have been really doing a great job notifying customers, getting a hold of everyone, letting them know that whether a credit card didn't go through on auto draft or, you know, a payment was missed accidentally. Done an amazing job with making sure that everybody knew and stayed in touch with all residents to get our disconnects down and get these bills paid for in time. I believe we were looking at about 25 to 30 disconnects a month. We are now we're in single digits each month now.
Wow.
It's been a really good job, and a lot of kudos to the staff for that. All right, we're gonna move down here to effluent charges. As you know, we do sell here effluent water. This goes down to the golf course. This is a increase that I'm projecting for next year. This is one of those things that if it's wet, they don't buy water. If it's dry like it is this year, they buy a significant amount of water. I say water, effluent water.
What's the current contract with the golf course?
As far as pricing, or?
Yeah, like how long term wise?
I don't think there's an end, is there?
I think there's an end date.
I think it's evergreen.
Yes, I believe so.
What?
I think it's an evergreen contract.
Okay.
I think we need to look at it at some point in the future, because if we haven't looked at it,
That's
Took
why
a
I
long
brought it
time.
up.
Yeah.
To see when was last rate analysis on that?
Well, that actually came up during the budget committee discussions, and after some conversation, Chris gave us his data that he had, and we're looking at evaluating that as part of the wastewater rates in March.
In March?
okay, yeah.
Okay, we just need to make sure that's revisited. Okay.
Jim? Interest rates, interest income has actually increased. We are now seeing across the board, you know, tax pool, interest from what's in escrow, all the interest rates are slowly starting to climb back up. As you know, back in 2020 when COVID hit, all interest rates basically the bottom fell out and they went to near zero. So we're seeing a slow increase on those. And then we have prior year reserves. That's the next big one here. Prior year reserves, this is contributions from the reserves going in to help stabilize the rates, as Chris just went over in his slides. And then right below that, we have contribution from GASB reserves. That is based on a schedule that we have created for GASB. This is going to be coming in from all three departments. And as you see in the comment section here, I have it broke down basically how much each department is getting for the GASB contributions.
Okay, I thought Chris had 600.
So he did. That's a good question. So what I did is I'm trying to make sure we have a $0 surplus budget. So on the water rates, we're even. The wastewater was about $44,749 over. This is decreasing that to get a $0 surplus.
Yeah, I see on the top line property taxes, I just want to make a comment, that's probably because mine were frozen this year and stuff, so. Just putting it out there, even though mud doesn't get a freeze, but,
Yeah. Some of them are frozen.
yeah.
All right, any questions on the revenue side? Oh, not hearing it? Okay. We're going to move on to the water. This is going to be the water expense side here. Some of the big pieces in here is going to be salaries, retirement, and medical insurance. We did have a removal of one FTE on the water side. It's been a vacant position, I believe, for a couple years now, a year and a half, and they were good to go ahead and remove that FTE. So it'd be one less staff, and then there's also, you know, merits and COLAs in there, which is why you see a 1% increase total. Retirement based on salaries and position removed, and same thing with medical. All right, we'll go down to maintenance and repairs. So we have a schedule on maintenance and repairs. This is projected out on what significant maintenance that we need to have over the next year. It's been worked on with Alan, myself, and all the water staff here, especially with Mike here to make sure we have the right number going forward and what repairs we have. As we see, the more, you know, this current year, we're selling more water, which puts a more of a drain on the system, more, you know, which then creates more repairs that are looking to be needed. And so we're trying to go into next year getting prepared for that.
One other item to mention on that is we have a well that we're planning on rehabbing proactively, and we also have leak detection built into this year's budget as well.
Leak detection for
Water lines.
water lines. Oh,
Yes, sir.
okay, okay.
Which well?
Good system.
Which well are we doing, number 3?
We are doing number
Number
3.
3.
Is that one of the shallower ones?
It is.
Okay.
Okay, to back up to the salary and wages, you lost a FTE, correct? You down
That's correct.
one? And I'm kind of jumping ahead, on the wastewater, you down 2.
That's correct.
And you went down 35%, but on the water, you went up 1.16.
Correct.
So how come one went down and the other one went up?
the significant of the position that was removed.
Okay.
So we had two chief basic operators on the wastewater side, and we had one operator one on the water side.
So between water and wastewater, down 3 FTEs,
Correct.
and you still doing the job?
Correct.
We're actually exceeding previous operations.
We're
Why
down
don't we
to,
cut more people then? We can keep that.
We're fairly lean, sir.
I can remember, Kevin, when you're talking about the mud and its employee FTEs and how it had held stable and the town was increasing their FTEs. And I think the number was 19 or 21
even
for the
go
mud.
there on the
And now
town.
we're down, what are we down, what does this take our FTEs down to?
Currently at 15.
Down to
15.
15.
We were at
Budgeted
like
16.
19 or
16
20.
budget at 15 current, yeah.
But, I mean, technology, like the wastewater plant, okay, that's pretty much, you know, highest technology. It doesn't take what we had before. But still, you have to have the people there in case something happens. So again, you have to applaud the management. Nothing to do with Mike, but you have to applaud the other people as far as managing.
I think the skill sets are doing
Yeah,
extremely
and
well.
again, it's technology, but still, 15 people to do what they do, that's like crazy, you know?
Yep.
Okay, sorry to interrupt you.
No problem. You'll see in all three departments, the next one will be energy. We're gonna have that, as we just went over the rates a few items ago. That's gonna be an increase in all three departments across the board. As Chris mentioned here in the last item here, wholesale water has increased a little over 5%. That is our true cost. As of about 3 weeks ago, I think we got the new rate. That's our official rate for this year coming up. This is actually the true cost that we're looking for next year based on consumption. Capital outlays, we'll get to that page here in a little bit towards the end. And then here's the GASB contributions here that will go in for gas replacement. So this is what basically, we take what needs to be over a 10-year period and we start putting over the lifespan of what's in there, and we're going to continue to put money. So this actually increased due to having a better idea of what items, what assets we have out there and what replacement schedule they all have and what the cost is.
Okay, have the Fort Worth rate increases already taken effect?
It
Or
will
the-
take effect October 1st.
Okay,
And that electric, we just discussed earlier, that's this number here, the increase in electric?
Correct.
Okay.
And that technically won't go into effect until January
January
1st.
1st,
That's
yeah.
correct.
Right.
So we will, based on whatever the number comes across, it looks like we're gonna have a surplus or a little bit higher in the budget once we get the final numbers for electric.
Okay, so you took basically 9 months out of next year for the 73% increase, because it's locked in at a higher rate, actually.
I did it at a higher rate just in case what the rates came back when we actually locked it down.
So we have some leeway there.
That's correct.
Okay, thanks.
All right, we're gonna get down to the wastewater side. As Director or President Carr mentioned already, we have 2 FTEs being removed. So this is all the personnel effect.
.34, and we are back from executive session and moving back into regular session. Agenda number 12, consider an act regarding items discussed in executive session. There's no action taken, no action to be approved or disapproved. So we're moving to item 13, items for future agenda. We have the one that Mr. Brewster brought up earlier. You have that already, right, Lori? Okay. Any other items? Anyone?
no, next month we'll be doing budget approval, tax rate approval, and I don't remember, do we do the reserve allocation, or do we wait till we get the audit in to do the reserves allocations?
Y'all need to finish the fiscal year out first before I can do that.
Okay,
So that would be technically in October once the year closes in September.
okay, thanks.
Do we have-
Will you amend your rate order to reflect and adopt the rate recommendations you heard tonight?
Yeah, the rate order will have to be on that too.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay, do we have an evaluation that we have to put agenda item?
It's on there for next month.
Okay, I just want to make sure that's on there. Okay, nothing else on future agenda items? Okay, number 14, agenda 14, set future meeting dates. The next meeting is September 21st, and then October is the 19th, November is the 16th, and December is the 14th. we'll just address the 21st right now. Does everyone have any problems on the 21st?
No.
No.
I'm good.
You good? You sure?
Yes, sir.
You want to get back with me? Okay, so next meeting is September 21st, 2022. Okay, if I don't see anything else, we're going to move to adjourn. It is 9:30.
Wait, just a minute. I think the reason that we're talking about this is the December 14th meeting is not the third Wednesday. I think it's the second Wednesday.
It's actually the week of Christmas also, so that's why we're asking to move it up
That's
a
not
week
the
prior.
of Christmas. Christmas is on the 25th.
It's before the week of Christmas.
It's 2 days
Before the week,
before
okay.
Christmas.
Okay.
And I was wanting to take a vacation this year, so
What?
I'm asking if we can move it to the 14th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is the
It said-
6th,
I mentioned the meetings, the 19th of October, November 16th, and the 14th of December. Do we have any problems with any of those?
yeah, I'm back with that. point.
Providing clarification,
Yeah,
that's all.
Okay.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
sorry
I just
about
want to
that.
make sure folks understood it wasn't the third. The 16th, that is the third Wednesday? Or is that moved up also, of November?
November 16th is the 3rd.
And that'll fall right before we start elections, so.
That is the third. Okay, good. I'm happy.
You okay with that?
Yep, I'm
Okay,
clarified.
That's in this year, right? You got that down, right? 2022? Okay.
As long as I pick up the correct computer
Okay,
and come to work.
No
we're
problem.
in good
Okay,
shape.
now, it is 9:37, and we will adjourn.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks, Tony.
Thanks, Tony.
Take care.
Good night.
Vacation.
Thank you.